Hey y'all, welcome to the Bill and Frantz Show. Today we have a hell of a good show for you today with special guest David Taylor. He will be performing his original song, Superman. Plus we have great hot topics. Stay tuned.
Okay, welcome back. Well, welcome to Bill and Frantz Show. We've got a special guest, David Taylor, scientist and
Yes.
musician.
Hello.
And we'll find out what kind of science he does. But first, you mentioned earlier that there's tomorrow is a special day. Tomorrow being Sunday.
Yes, tomorrow is a special day. It's Mole Day.
Okay.
Do you know
said
what Mole Day is?
Day. You said mole.
Mole.
Mole. Okay.
How do you spell mole?
MOLE.
Okay.
Right. So, it's not about rodents. It's actually about a scientific constant. It was discovered by Amadeo Avogadro. It's actually also known as Avogadro's number. It's 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd particles.
What does that mean?
Well,
Yes,
okay,
break it
so
down, please.
right. So if you have a mole, of any compound, say you have 32 grams of molecular oxygen, that's going to be 1 mole because the atomic number of oxygen is 16.
Okay.
So 32 grams would comprise 1 mole, and so any element that you have or molecule or compound that you have a mole of is going to have 6.02 times 23rd, 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd particles.
So 10 to 23rd means it's 10 with 23 zeros.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a very big number. And then a
Right.
mole is, if I'm close, but I'm not sure I have it.
Yeah.
It's how much of something is in an amount of something else.
Exactly. So 32 grams of oxygen, because its atomic number is 16, would have a mole of particles. 1 gram of hydrogen gas would have 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd particles, or a mole of particles.
Okay.
Okay, so when we're celebrating Mole Day, so what's the actual celebration? Are they saying celebrating because it's less or more? What's the concept of that?
I think it's just a fun thing. It's a weird name. It sounds like a rodent, a mole.
right,
So
'cause
I
I
think
was
it's kind of a
thinking-
cool, and it's an important scientific constant that's used. People keep track of how much of any given compound is in their solution by expressing it in terms of moles. So you'll have, a 1 molar solution of salt that you make up your biological buffer with. So that's just
Biological buffer.
right. If you were doing some sort of injection of animals for some sort of science study, hopefully nobody's really doing that anymore. But no, of course they are. But you have to keep track of how much. You have to know how many grams of sodium chloride to put in your beaker of water, so that you have a mole, so that you can do the experiment the way the previous researcher did the experiment. So it's just the way that we keep track of how much to use, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, how does the mole relate to your specialty, which is what?
Well, my specialty is biochemistry, and I calculate molarity for, I think, for postdocs and sometimes professors at my job. I'm actually in technical service at a life science company, and what I do is people call in and they're having trouble with their experiments with their PCR kit or some sort of molecular biology technique that they're doing, and I take a look at their data and I try to help troubleshoot and get their experiments on track. So, but sometimes I get really mundane questions about something really a high school student should probably be able to do, which is how much of this calcium chloride do I need to add to this beaker of water so that I have a 0.5 molar calcium chloride solution? I sit back and really, okay, and then I do the calculation and I tell them. So that's also part of my job. So.
That's something that I probably could have done in high school, but could not do now.
I can help you with that.
Well,
Give me a call.
I'll tell you this is great. This is absolutely great right here. Pinkies and the brain. Okay? So, that was cool. And for everybody out there, if you didn't understand, just watch the show again. Because I'm going to watch the show again so I can get a better understanding myself. That was cool, man.
All right.
That was real cool. So, what's up, man?
All right. So I got one more question for you. So, what aside from your call-in job, what it really interests you in science?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time at the core PCR group at Roche, and I was working on a technique. Well, actually, before that, I was working on a different technique called CELEX, in which
How do you spell that?
SELEX.
Okay.
It's the systematic evolution of ligands by exponential enrichment.
Ooh.
It's basically, though, when we're talking about zeros again, you start with about a trillion different DNA or RNA molecules, and you subject them to challenge of trying to bind to a limited number of sites on a bead where you have maybe a protein attached or some other kind of biomolecule or small molecule, and you take it through. It's an iterative process, so you bind. There are a limited number of sites, so only a small fraction of the DNAs or RNAs will actually bind. The rest will get washed away. Then you amplify those by a technique called PCR, which is basically a molecular biology Xerox machine. You take a very small amount of DNA or RNA, and you put in little monomers. I mean, RNAs and DNAs you can think of as beads or strings of beads, and PCR allows you to take those strings of beads essentially, put in more beads and smaller strings of beads, and an enzyme will extend the small string of beads to a full string, and so you get a duplex. Heat it up, that breaks apart. You've got an excess of the small strings of beads and the individual monomer beads. And over that process, go through several cycles of heating and cooling. The enzyme is thermostable, so it won't be destroyed by the heating. It's a really cool technique. Eventually, though, you can start with one molecule of DNA or RNA, and at the end, you can have billions or trillions of molecules.
I love it. I love it.
So.
I may not understand it, but I love
it. But I think it's cool. I mean,
it's your life daily.
Yeah, it's
right.
a way of
whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's a way of finding really high affinity molecules, starting with a big pool where you know nothing about the component parts, and so it's really an irrational method to find something that has a very, very tight affinity for a target, and those can be lead compounds for drugs. Actually, there's one aptamer, which is what you get out of the CELEX process, which is being used to treat macular degeneration. I think it's Eli Lilly that makes the product. So it's Macugen. So it's a cool technique.
With that, I just want to say, our Congress, leave our scientists alone, keep the funding in place, because we need to get this information. It's all important. It's the cycle of life.
Exactly.
Leave science alone.
Thank you. Thank you.
More
Thank you,
science,
man.
less bombs.
All right.
Hey, no problem.
All right, speaking of less bombs or shooting missiles and flight and trajectories,
okay.
Let's move on to music.
Oh, okay.
Nice. You like that segue?
It was awesome. Yeah.
Very smooth.
That was.
So David and I are in a band. We're in a band together called Queen Normus, where we do tribute music to Queen, the band everyone loves. But also we do some stuff as a duo, and we're going to do a song real soon that David wrote called Superman. Tell us about that.
Yeah.
I was watching that Ben Affleck movie Hollywoodland, and that's a little kind of biopic, I guess, about George Reeves, who was the original Superman on the Saturday morning 1950s television series.
Okay.
And he had kind of a real tragic life, I guess. I mean, he obviously was very successful being on a TV show and that kind of thing in Hollywood, but he got bad contracts and he didn't get paid very much for his work.
Right.
And he was, of course, once you're wearing the big S on you're going to be typecast for the rest of your career. I mean, I don't think.
Yeah, like
Christopher.
science fiction guys too.
Yeah, I mean, Christopher Reeve did pretty well. He's a really great actor, but he always had to deal with that, specter of the Superman, typecasting. And I think George Reeves, had the same problems, and he suffered from depression, and he had a very tragic end to his life. There's still some mystery about how he died, whether it was an accidental or a self-inflicted, intentional, suicide, gunshot wound. So I just kind of inspired me to write it.
And it's a very pretty song. I can attest to that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it has a great name, Superman.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't we let's hear that song now. David, we'll sing that song, okay?
Let's do it.
All right.
We'll be
Who am I, this man, serial hero, Saturday morning fare? running next to zero. No princely summer snow fair, but children are waiting, hoping, playing. One of them blind-eyed to the fiction, holding his daddy's gun, pointed at me, yes, on my chest. I am flesh, not steel, I run. Stand over my grave and you will see, oh, me. No Superman was he. Stand over my flame and you will find all the time. No Superman was I. Who am I, this one? Typecast, pick last on the smaller screen. All my prospects turn to defects. I know what it means, but I'm role model. They look up to me. I don't even smoke it all, at least where they can see. Stand over my grave and you will see, oh, me. No Superman was he. Stand over my flame and you will find all the time. No Superman was I. Oh, I climb, no more tears to climb. Oh, fall out of the sky tonight. I'll fly faster than the speed of pain. I don't know just what to say now. It's my turn to go. Tell them it was just an accident. Please don't let them know. Stand over my fame and you will find all the time. No Superman was I. Stand over my grave and you will see, oh, me. No Superman was he. Stand over my flame and you will find all the time. No Superman was I.
Yeah, that's how we do.
All right.
Man, you killed it, man.
Oh, thank
Feeling it all in my heart and chest. Bill, you handle your business. That's what we do on the Bill and Frantz show. Thank you. Man, what's up with them Cardinals? They're doing it. I mean, they won the first game. Unfortunately, they did not win the second one, but it's on.
It was close.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Now, by the time you watch this broadcast, today is Saturday, the 22nd, I think, of October.
Yes.
So tonight, we're all going to be watching Game 3, which is now in Texas instead of St. Louis.
Yes.
We don't know what's going to happen, but those of you who are watching do know what happened. So, anyway, I've got my little cap here from 2006 World Series. The Cardinals won in 2006, and they beat the Tigers, who made it to the playoffs, and then were beaten by the same Texas Rangers this past week. So that means, but people are saying, wow, the Cardinals and the Texas Rangers are about equal, and they have the same equal strengths and stuff. Now, people generally bet on the Rangers for being, the more strong team because they were dominant all year, and the Cardinals just kind of scraped their way towards the end. So we'll see. What do you think?
Well, you remember, like the last show we watched, for those who watched the show, we talked about who would be in the World Series.
Right.
We said it would be, we predicted kind of that it would be Texas and the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And so here
Here
it
we are.
is, you know.
Kudos.
So hey, I mean, but I'm loving it, man, because everybody in the city has red on. I mean, when I watch the game on TV, it's great because all I see is red, white, and blue, red, white, and blue. Because the Texans got all that blue, the red, white. It still looks great. It looks great to me,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then the field is beautiful how they laid it out. I love that they put the arch in it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I'm enjoying the World Series, man.
Yeah.
Straight up.
All right.
See what you
That,
think,
that
man?
game one was amazing. Yeah.
Was- yes,
Carpenter
it
was
was.
it 6.5 innings? Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Great great game. Yeah.
The Cardinals had some hella good pitchers.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm starting to really just get into baseball because my boy Bill is teaching me about it. You know, it's always been football and
Yeah.
tennis and stuff like that. But it's cool. I'm really enjoying what I'm learning. You know.
Yeah.
So,
I'm glad you get into another level with my buddy Seth, but he's not here. Because he teaches me stuff. Anyway, in other news this week, possibly more important than baseball, was the what's his name, Ghadaffi, or Ghadaffi, depending on who you talk to, from Libya. That guy was finally taken down. They found him in a sewer. They found him in a drainage sewer,
Yep.
and then he was healthy, and they beat the crap out of him, and then suddenly there's no footage, and then there's more footage of him dead. And the question was originally the interim government said, "Oh, he was caught in crossfire,"
Right.
and the UN saying, "I wonder."
Some were saying he was actually shot with his own golden gun, which is
His
kind
golden
of
gun?
poetic. Yeah, if that's really
Right.
what happened. So,
Was he
yeah.
shot by a virgin in high heels?
I don't think so. That wasn't on the footage, so. yeah.
Right.
well, you know, I say this. That man, he did some wild stuff. He terrorized his own people. So
Yeah.
how do I feel about it? I mean, I'm never really happy to hear about somebody dying, but you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And he definitely lived by the sword, you know. And I'm not trying to judge the man or whatever, but he did some wild stuff, and it comes back to haunt you.
Oh yeah.
You know?
I know the UN is like talking about, basically he had it coming. There's no doubt about that. But it's not. It was if he was killed while in captivity, technically, that was unlawful, right? Because you're supposed to try someone before you execute them, or
Right.
put them in jail, or put them in hard labor.
Is it a Geneva Convention then that this interim government would be in violation of? However, they're not really part of the convention yet, are they? They're so new.
Right, but I don't know. I mean, they don't know whether. Someone was saying it's a crime, whether it's a war crime. I don't know, but I mean, if it's just some. It's a lot of gray area, but nonetheless, whoever did it, it was a murder and not technically murder
Right.
and not an execution, because execution technically is you've been tried and then you're
Right.
executed.
Right.
If you haven't been tried, it's murder.
Right. Right.
Ooh, it's a thin line, isn't it?
It is, especially in this case.
Yeah, right. In this case, right here.
I mean, this is the very same guy that said, I will not give up I'll die fighting to keep my power.
Yeah.
and
I
that's
guess that's kinda what
exactly what he did.
Exactly.
Well, you could fit the Gaddafi fan club in a phone booth. If
Right.
Anybody remembers what a phone booth is?
More
Right,
secure.
man. But these guys, I always say, karma. People don't believe in karma, but karma is real. It is so real.
It is the most powerful force in the universe.
Whoa.
Right.
Yes. I think.
Well,
More
Well.
than compounding interest.
So, but we had a great show. Thank you for enjoying the show. Thank you for even watching the show. Thank you for just supporting the Bill and Frantz show. We love you like we always do. Peace.